Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. I want to provide a little bit of an IGOW update. If you missed my previous video on IGOW is like horse with basketball when you're a kid, or maybe yesterday, where one person does a trick. I'm not certain how the trick gets started for IGOW, but we'll see how that goes. And then the next person tries, and if you can't nail the trick or can't get the trick, nailing it's very loose, then you get a letter. If you spell out hoop, then you're out. There's a $5 prize, and you can compete online. There is one thing I've got to tell you. Deadline's coming up through the end of July. You've got to have your submission in through the end of July, or you can't have fun. You can't be in IGOW. You can't spell whoop with your failed tricks like this guy's going to do. But I am proud to tell you that I was able to accomplish my personal goal. I was able to self-power loop. Now, it wasn't great. I actually did 3 in a row, and none of them are anything you're going to brag to mom about, so to speak, but I got it done. And you see those rolling in the lower corner. Actually, that was my submission, and then a few others. And I show you those so that you can understand it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't need to be, Rotor Riot Smooth or Ladrib or Schizo or Stinger or Cricket or any of those pilots that you might know or see online. You don't have to be a top-notch pilot. If you can get lucky once, it counts. Sometimes better lucky than good, right? So it was a personal goal of mine, and it took a lot of crashing. So I had 2 that I took out the first day. I've got kind of a Mobulus 6 and a Mobulus 7-ish. I think it actually says ish on the OSD as well. But a few things I thought I would share with you. Now, you don't have to do the self-power loop. You can do the McDonald's trick, where you go through one of the arches and you do a roll or a flip, and then you turn around and you come back through the other arch and you do whichever you didn't do the first time. So if you did a flip the first time, you do a roll the second time. If you did a roll the first time, you do a flip the second time. Pretty straightforward and simple, and I was going to do that, but unfortunately today, after I accomplished my power loop, I need to finish mowing the lawn, and then it started raining, so I kind of got shut out there. So I would have liked to have shown you an example of that, but I'll link down below to the document for IGOW. It kind of lays out the rules. If you want to read it, you can read it, but it's just a friendly competition. The weekly prizes are $5. Who gets upset about $5? I see people from all over the globe getting involved. I've got, I see a number of people here from U.S. We've got Switzerland, we've got Australia, we've got the Philippines. So if you're in another country, it's just an online competition, and it's $5. Just try. I know some of you are practicing and getting ready, so I suspect there's going to be a number of submissions. They're going to come in right at the last minute, but don't let the end of July pass you by before you get your submission in. I would like to tell you a little bit about my journey to the self-power loop. It wasn't a bright journey. I really didn't think through this very well, but the first thing I did was I just started kind of doing it empty. I wasn't standing out there in the grass. I was just trying to work in a loop, trying to get that stick feel to getting up and getting over and getting up and getting over. And then I really didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I needed a visual representation of going through my legs and what I needed to get over. So I threw myself out there. Now, that was the first challenge, because I sit when I fly. And I'm not really an aerobatic guy. I'm not doing a lot of high-flying maneuvers with twists and turns. I'm kind of more of racing, working a few things to show you how things work. So standing and flying, it was fairly uneasy. Matter of fact, every time I took off, I kind of felt a little uneasy and had to kind of stabilize myself before I tried. But I was able to get it, obviously. And the first few times, I really struggled. I wasn't getting behind myself. I wasn't getting very high. A few times I hit myself in the goggles. I do have a scratch. I don't know if you can see that, where a prop got me. That's probably my worst injury for all my attempts. Ran into my backside a whole bunch of times. My back, or my upper back, my legs. So that's the only real injury to report. But one of the things that I kind of had to deal with were the trees. I don't have a large open space, so if you can do yours in a bigger space than what I've got, I've got that canopy, so I've always got stuff to worry about. I put myself at the end of the yard where it's taller. I would say I had almost 20 feet vertically to work with, I think, and I thought that would be more than enough, and it was a lot harder than I thought it was. But sometimes when I started finally getting myself going back over myself, then I would run into that tree in the back and I'd have to bail out or get hung up in that tree or something like that. I did eventually do a couple sloppy ones in that center position of the yard where I had those trees to deal with. And I thought it would help me because I'd have the tree in front to deal with. But what I found was when I turned myself, and I didn't move that far, but I turned myself and aligned myself up with that corner when I come from the shed side of the house over the chimney side, and I come down that little like flower bed area, I would start near that and I would come at myself and then loop back around. that I had the trees in front of me to kind of guide myself straight up and over, because that was something else I struggled with. A lot of times I was coming off to one side and I wasn't even going straight. I was kind of rolling over. I guess I should use a quad. So instead of going straight over and back, I'd end up going like this, and kind of you getting some yaw involved. So that really helped me to have that visual representation of the tree rather than not getting, I know I had a tree in the other view, but it was just kind of, there was nothing really to look at. It was just branches or something. But when I turned myself, I had kind of a crest between two trees. There was kind of a gap between the trees where I could see, and then I could kind of balloon up or blow it out, I think is the proper term, to where you get way higher than you need to and way further back, and then you come down in. I was actually able to do 3 in a row at one point, so that was pretty fancy. They were, again, not great and nothing you'd call home about, but I was able to get that done, and I wanted to kind of describe that journey for you. Now, the first day I went out to try this, it was about 100 degrees. Heat index had to have been somewhere around 114, 115, I forget now, and I was just soaked through. I had sweat inside my goggles on the lenses. It was a rough day out there, and I spent about 45 minutes out there trying. I think I went through about 8 or 10 batteries trying to do the power loop, and then I had to jump to this one because I'd lost props on this one. And I know that people have broken these frames, but holy cow, I buried this thing into the ground a whole bunch of times, and this one's kind of deformed here, but other than the deformity, it's fine. So if you're breaking those, I suspect you're doing things much more high speed than I was. But I was able to accomplish that one in that kind of center spot, and then when I turned myself to where I had a bigger open area, that's the way I would suggest it. But again, that's not really my style of flight, so many of you that have been doing that will be able to do that trick a lot easier. Also, if you're not flying in acro mode, you know, where there's no self-stabilization, if you're still using angle mode, switch and try Horizon, because Horizon will allow you to do the flip and the roll so that you can do through the McDonald sign to get your entry trick. It's just another modes on your modes tab. You can flip that switch. You can change it from angle to Horizon. Horizon generally will give you more angle you can go to, and then at the end of the stick resolution, it will then allow you to go ahead and turn all the way over, around, and it will still self-stabilize. So if you center the stick, it'll kick in the self-stabilization and it'll come in flat for you. So you can use that to go through the arches for your flip and your roll, and there's no problem with that to get involved in the entry. But by the end of July, you got to have your entry in. So that's why I'm here for you today, to let you know that I was, pretty pumped up, pretty proud of myself, able to do something different, challenge myself, and that's what I'm hoping you guys will do. All over, if you're, doesn't matter what country you're from, jump in for some good fun. They're hoops. Who doesn't love a hoop? Who doesn't have a hoop? If you don't have a hoop, go get one. There's got to be one at any local hobby store. I've got a brushed one around here too. My alien whoop, where'd it go? Ah, here she is, my alien whoop. So it's just going to be fun. Don't stress about it. Get your trick entries in. I'm sure there'll be probably weeks where I stink at it or I can't get accomplished because I won't either have time or I just won't be able to do it. And there's no shame in that. It's all about having some fun, joining in with other people in the FPV community, seeing who does what, challenging ourselves, more flights, more fun, enjoy. So get out there, charge your batteries, get your entry trick in. It's, July 21st as I record this, so you don't have a lot of time left, and I would really like to see as many people join in. I'm not invested in this other than I am going to be one of the participants. I didn't start this. There's no money to gain. There's nothing of that nature. I just think it's going to be fun, and I think this hobby in FPV has matured enough to where we can start to focus on flying fun, and rather than being angry that some people are sponsored and some people aren't, or some people have this and some people don't. There's been a lot of that. I think the hobby has matured to where we can all just start to enjoy each other having fun. And if you're like me and you're kind of isolated, this is a way to join into a group online, and so you can feel to be a part of this group. Young or old, here, there, anywhere. Join in, have some fun. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.